Welcome to our channel. Learning English with Bible stories helps your child grow twice as much in understanding and wisdom. Repeat these stories as many times as needed for understanding, comprehension, and assimilation. It can also be a tool for adults. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any teachings. Story: Jacob and Esau, Genesis 25-27. Chapter 1: The twins are born. Once upon a time, in the land of Canaan, there lived a man named Isaac and his wife, Rebekah. They were a happy couple, but there was something missing in their lives. They longed to have children, but for many years, Rebekah was unable to have a baby. This made them both very sad. Isaac loved Rebekah dearly, and he prayed to God, asking him to bless them with children. God heard Isaac's prayers, and one day, Rebekah found out she was going to have not just one baby, but two. She was going to have twins. As the babies grew inside Rebekah, she could feel them moving around a lot. It felt like they were struggling with each other, even before they were born. Rebekah was worried and asked God why this was happening. God told her, "Two nations are in your womb. Two peoples will come from within you and be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." When it was time for the babies to be born, the first baby came out. He was very red and covered with hair, like a furry little coat. So they named him Esau, which means hairy. Right after Esau was born, his brother came out. This baby was holding on to Esau's heel, so they named him Jacob, which means he grasps the heel or he deceives. Even though Jacob and Esau were twins, they were very different from each other. As the boys grew up, Esau loved to be outdoors. He became a skillful hunter, always out in the fields, catching animals and bringing them home. He was strong and adventurous, and his father Isaac loved him very much, because he enjoyed eating the tasty meat Esau brought home. Jacob, on the other hand, was a quiet and thoughtful boy. He preferred to stay at home, helping his mother Rebekah with household chores. He enjoyed cooking, learning, and taking care of the family's animals. Jacob was gentle and kind, and he loved spending time with his mother. Rebekah loved Jacob very much, because he stayed close to her and helped her with many things. Their home was a busy and prosperous place. Isaac was very wealthy, with many animals, servants, and everything their family needed. They lived in tents and moved from place to place to find the best grazing land for their animals. Even though the family had many blessings, the differences between Jacob and Esau became more noticeable as they grew older, setting the stage for the events that were to come. One day, when Esau was out hunting as usual, something very important happened. But we'll save that story for the next chapter. For now, remember that Jacob and Esau were twin brothers, born on the same day, but with very different hearts and minds. Their story teaches us about family, choices, and how God's plans unfold in surprising ways. Stay tuned for the next chapter to find out what happens next in the story of Jacob and Esau. Chapter 2: The Birthright. As Jacob and Esau grew older, their differences became even more pronounced. Esau loved to spend his days outside, exploring the wild fields and hunting animals. He was strong and rugged, and he loved the thrill of the hunt. Esau's favorite thing was to come home after a long day with a fresh catch, preparing delicious meals for his father Isaac, who loved Esau's tasty food. Jacob, on the other hand, preferred the quiet and comfort of home. He enjoyed helping his mother Rebekah with cooking and taking care of the household. Jacob was thoughtful and intelligent, often spending his time learning and thinking about many things. Even though they were twins, Esau and Jacob's lives were very different. One day, after a long and tiring hunt, Esau came home completely exhausted and very hungry. He had been out in the fields all day under the hot sun and had not caught anything to eat. As he entered the camp, he smelled something delicious. Jacob was cooking a pot of lentil stew, and the aroma filled the air, making Esau's mouth water. Esau hurried over to Jacob and said, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I am famished." Esau was so hungry that he felt he couldn't wait another minute. Jacob saw an opportunity. He knew how much the birthright meant, and he decided to make a bold move. "First, sell me your birthright," Jacob replied. Now, the birthright was very important. It was a special honor given to the firstborn son, which meant that Esau would receive a larger share of the family's inheritance and a special blessing from their father Isaac. It was a sacred and valuable privilege. Esau, however, was so hungry that he didn't think about the future. All he could think about was his growling stomach. "Look, I am about to die," Esau said dramatically. "What good is the birthright to me?" Jacob insisted, "Swear to me first." Esau, desperate and not thinking clearly, agreed. He swore an oath to Jacob, selling his birthright for a bowl of stew. Jacob then gave Esau some bread and the lentil stew. Esau ate and drank, and then he got up and left, feeling satisfied but not realizing the gravity of what he had just done. From that day on, Jacob had the birthright that rightfully belonged to Esau. Esau did not value his birthright and traded it away for a simple meal. This decision would have significant consequences for both brothers in the future. The story of Jacob and Esau teaches us about the importance of thinking carefully about our choices and valuing what is truly important. Esau's hunger made him give up something very valuable for a momentary satisfaction, while Jacob's cleverness changed the course of their lives. Stay tuned for the next chapter to find out what happens when their father Isaac is ready to give his blessing. Chapter 3: Isaac's Blessing. As time went by, Isaac became very old and his eyesight grew weak. He knew that his days were numbered and wanted to give his blessing to his eldest son, Esau. This blessing was very important, as it would pass on the leadership of the family and God's promises to the next generation. One day, Isaac called Esau to his side and said, "My son, I am now an old man and don't know the day of my death. Now then, get your weapons, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like and bring it to me to eat, so that I may give you my blessing before I die." Esau eagerly agreed and set off to the fields to hunt for game, looking forward to receiving his father's blessing. However, Rebekah overheard the conversation between Isaac and Esau. She remembered God's words that the older would serve the younger, and she wanted Jacob to receive the blessing instead of Esau. Rebekah quickly called Jacob and told him what she had heard. She said, "Listen carefully, my son. Go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats, so I can prepare some tasty food for your father, just the way he likes it. Then take it to your father to eat, so that he may give you his blessing before he dies." Jacob was worried. He said, "But my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I have smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him and would bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing." Rebekah replied, "My son, let the curse fall on me. Just do what I say, go and get them for me." So, Jacob went and got the goats and brought them to his mother. Rebekah prepared the tasty food just the way Isaac liked it. Then she took some of Esau's best clothes, which she had in the house, and put them on Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goat skins, so he would feel hairy like Esau. Jacob took the delicious food and the bread his mother had made and went to his father. He said, "My father." "Yes, my son," Isaac answered. "Who is it?" Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may give me your blessing. Isaac was a bit suspicious. How did you find it so quickly, my son? He asked. The Lord your God gave me success, Jacob replied. Then Isaac said to Jacob, Come near so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you really are my son Esau or not. Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He did not recognize Jacob, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau, so he blessed him. Are you really my son Esau? He asked. I am, Jacob replied. Then Isaac said, My son, bring me some of your game to eat, so that I may give you my blessing. Jacob brought it to him, and Isaac ate, and he brought some wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, Come here, my son, and kiss me. So Jacob went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you heaven's dew, and earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you, and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. Jacob received the blessing meant for Esau. When Esau returned from hunting and discovered what had happened, he was heartbroken and furious. He begged his father for a blessing, but Isaac said, Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing. Esau cried out, Bless me, me too, my father. But Isaac said, I have made him lord over you, and have made all his relatives his servants. I have sustained him with grain and new wine. So what can I possibly do for you, my son? Esau held a grudge against Jacob and planned to harm him. But Rebekah heard of Esau's plans, and told Jacob to flee to her brother Laban in Haran until Esau's anger cooled. Stay tuned for the next chapter, to find out what happens when Jacob has to leave home and live with his uncle Laban. Chapter 4, Jacob's Trick. Jacob had successfully received the blessing from his father Isaac, but it came at a cost. His brother Esau was furious and heartbroken when he discovered what had happened. Esau had lost both his birthright and his father's blessing to Jacob. The anger inside Esau grew, and he made plans to take revenge on Jacob. Rebekah, their mother, was worried for Jacob's safety. She knew that Esau's anger could lead to violence. So she called Jacob and said, Your brother Esau is planning to kill you to get his revenge. You must leave at once and go to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay with him for a while until Esau's anger subsides. When it is safe, I will send word for you to come back. Rebekah then went to Isaac and said, I am disgusted with living because of these Hittite women that Esau has married. If Jacob takes a wife from among the women of this land, my life will not be worth living. Isaac understood her concern and called Jacob to him. Isaac blessed Jacob again and gave him instructions, saying, Do not marry a Canaanite woman. Go at once to Paddan Aram, to the house of your mother's father Bethuel. Take a wife for yourself there, from among the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you become a community of peoples. May He give you and your descendants the blessing given to Abraham, so that you may take possession of the land where you now live as a foreigner, the land God gave to Abraham. So Jacob listened to his parents, and set out for Paddan Aram to his uncle Laban's house. The journey was long and tiring, but Jacob was determined to follow his parents' instructions and escape Esau's wrath. On his way, Jacob reached a certain place and stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. As he slept, Jacob had a dream. In his dream, he saw a stairway resting on the earth, with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. Above the stairway stood the Lord, who said, "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you." When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." He was afraid and said, "How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, this is the gate of heaven." Early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. He called that place Bethel, which means house of God, though the city used to be called Luz. Jacob made a vow, saying, "If God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey I am taking and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear so that I return safely to my father's household, then the Lord will be my God, and this stone that I have set up as a pillar will be God's house, and of all that you give me I will give you a tenth." With renewed faith and determination, Jacob continued his journey to Haran. He knew that God was with him and that he had a special plan for his life. Jacob felt more confident that he would be safe and succeed in finding a wife from his uncle Laban's family. Stay tuned for the next chapter to find out what happens when Jacob arrives at his uncle Laban's house and meets his future wife. Chapter 5: Jacob and Rachel. Jacob had finally reached his uncle Laban's house and was warmly welcomed by the family. He had traveled a long way to escape his brother Esau's anger and to find a wife among his mother's relatives. At Laban's home, Jacob felt a sense of relief and hope for his future. Laban had 2 daughters, the older one was Leah, and the younger one was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance. From the moment Jacob saw Rachel at the well, he fell in love with her. Rachel was kind and hardworking, and Jacob admired her greatly. After Jacob had stayed with Laban for a month, Laban said to him, "Just because you are a relative of mine, should you work for me for nothing? Tell me what your wages should be." Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, "I will work for you 7 years in return for your younger daughter Rachel." Laban agreed, saying, "It's better that I give her to you than to some other man. Stay here with me." So Jacob worked 7 years to earn Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. Finally, the time came for Jacob to marry Rachel. He said to Laban, "Give me my wife. My time is completed, and I want to make my marriage with her." So Laban brought together all the people of the place and gave a great feast. But when evening came, Laban took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and Jacob slept with her. Laban also gave his servant Zilpah to his daughter as her attendant. When morning came, Jacob discovered the deception. He was shocked and angry. He said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? I served you for Rachel, didn't I? Why have you deceived me?" Laban replied, "It is not our custom here to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older one. Finish this daughter's bridal week, then we will give you the younger one also, in return for another 7 years of work." Jacob agreed. He finished the bridal week with Leah, and then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to be his wife. Laban also gave his servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her attendant. Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah, and he worked for Laban another 7 years. Although Jacob now had both Leah and Rachel as his wives, his love for Rachel remained stronger. This created tension in the family. Leah felt unloved and sad because Jacob's heart belonged to Rachel. But God saw Leah's sorrow and blessed her with children, while Rachel remained childless for a time. Leah gave birth to 4 sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. She hoped that by bearing sons, Jacob would grow to love her. Each son's birth brought Leah hope and joy, even though she still longed for Jacob's affection. Rachel, on the other hand, was very distressed because she could not have children. She envied her sister Leah and pleaded with Jacob, "Give me children, or I'll die." Jacob became angry and said, "Am I in the place of God, who has kept you from having children?" Desperate, Rachel gave her servant Bilhah to Jacob as a wife, saying, "Sleep with her so that she can bear children for me, and I too can build a family through her." Bilhah gave birth to 2 sons, Dan and Naphtali, and Rachel was pleased. Leah saw that she had stopped having children, so she took her servant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Zilpah bore Jacob 2 more sons, Gad and Asher. Leah also had 2 more sons, Issachar and Zebulun, and a daughter named Dinah. Finally, God remembered Rachel and listened to her prayers. He enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son named Joseph. Rachel said, "God has taken away my disgrace," and she was overjoyed. Jacob's family continued to grow, and his wealth increased as he worked for Laban. Despite the challenges and struggles, God blessed Jacob and his family, fulfilling his promise to Jacob. Jacob learned many lessons about love, patience, and God's faithfulness during his time with Laban. Stay tuned for the next chapter to find out what happens when Jacob decides to leave Laban and return to his homeland.